Things were looking up for Charlie Morningstar and friends. After an intense battle with Adam, they managed to fend off the extermination. With this victory under their belt, they worked together to rebuild the hotel bigger and better than before. A long line of sinners stretched outside their doorstep, ready to come on in and take a key, with plenty of reporters trying to interview the princess about the hotel and the Battle of the Angels. The problem was that Charlie was nowhere to be found. Her girlfriend Vaggie went over to the lounge to try to check up on her, only to find a vortex opening up out of nowhere. Out of it popped out a young man with a pink hoodie, curly brown hair, and most notably a gem shining out of his stomach, Steven Universe. He wasn't sure how he got there, all he remembered was finding this strange purple book during his travels after leaving his hometown. However, as concerning as it was for a living kid to now be trapped inside of hell, there wasn't really any time for that. People were getting restless and impatient in the hotel's lobby. Steven, being the kind soul that he is and respecting their goal to try to help sinners, decided to step in and lend a hand, at the very least till they were able to find Charlie and find a way back home for him. Unbeknownst to them though, the TV demon and head of the V's Vox had plans of his own. With the newly acquired knowledge that angels can be killed, the hotel's popularity, and now the sudden disappearance of Hell's princess, Vox decided to strike while the iron was hot, and use Hell's newfound hope to help him plot a hell-wide uprising against heaven, with him at the very top. With Charlie gone, can Steven help protect the Hazbin Hotel's reputation and be able to stop Vox and pacify him? Or can Vox break Steven's spirit and bring the fight up to heaven? Either way, should make for some breaking news.
Here we are in the future. Here we are in the future, and it's bright.
I can't believe we've come so far. It's been a long time coming, but now I can finally represent Steven Universe. I mean, I've been wearing his shirt this entire time. It was written in the stars. And if the goal here is to pacify Vox, I certainly believe in Steven. More so than I trust Mr. TV Headman over there. First, let's just look at the scoreboard. Steven has made a career off of rehabilitating dangerous, unwell, and murderous gems in the past. Peridot, Bismuth, Spinel, and most importantly, the diamonds. It is important to note, Steven didn't redeem the diamonds, but he pacified them, which is the ultimate goal here. Steven could never forgive the diamonds for their crimes, and he could never forgive Vox. But set him on a better path to prevent him from harming anyone else? That he can do, and with musical enthusiasm! On Vox's side of the coin, he tried his best to break Charlie, but she saw through his ruse of angel dust and stood strong even when Vox's plans came to fruition, despite his clear intentions to break her. Steven is just as, if not more, mentally resilient than Charlie after all the hardships he's faced. Vox's little mockery is not going to make him cry. Vox has a lot of mental insecurities that Steven could help him overcome. He hates being seen as a failure and desperately wants to prove himself, but primarily he's hung up on his feelings for Alistair, who did not reciprocate those feelings and shut down their partnership in the cruelest way possible. Honestly, it kind of reminds me of Spinel, who was rejected and neglected by Rose. If Steven can get Vox to listen, he can help him get over that rejection and give him hope that maybe, possibly, he'll love again. It's not like Vox has no emotions. He can make himself vulnerable, he genuinely loves his pet shark, and he has an attachment to his fellow Vs, who seem to reciprocate. If Steven can push him to make those relationships more healthy, Vox will be a happier and healthier demon. But a happier, genocidal madman in power is not what we want here. Steven can only really pacify Vox if Vincent is out of options. So, it starts with an ass-kicking. We'll assume their stats are relative, but given Steven's training and experience, and his variety of abilities that can mess with TVs, it makes me confident that Steven can beat his ass and dismantle the V's empire. If he needs some extra muscle, Steven is naturally good at making friends, and can likely get the entire Hazbin crew on board with this. Without his status and power, Vox wouldn't really have the means to do anything to hurt Steven. In a state like that, I believe he would be a lot more receptive to Steven's therapy and maybe let his guard down a little. We know from an interview from VisbyPop that the events of Season 2 have humbled Vox. So the ass-kicking method does genuinely yield positive results. Even if we don't know exactly where that's going to lead him, Vox being explicitly humbled is a good start. That positive change is greater than any negative change I could see Vox pushing onto Steven. His plan to break Charlie involved a lot of social media influence, using his control over the media to turn all of hell against her. That worked pretty well on Charlie because she cares a lot about Hell's perception of her and the hotel. Steven has no real reason to care. He's actually pretty used to people hating him for no good reason, and is very patient with the people who antagonize him. So I don't see Vox getting anything out of that. What can he even do if that doesn't work? Kill Steven's friends? They're on Earth and he would get decimated if he tried. Kill Steven? Again, he's getting flattened and having his head sent back home in a bubble. Steven's biggest worries are more personal, internal struggles that not even his closest friends were privy to until the weight of everything caused a crash out. It's not something that Vox would be aware of, and even if he was, Steven has grown from that experience. And it's likely he'll be able to pick himself back up if something like this happens again. In summary, Steven's greater experience in changing bad people for the better, mixed with his experience fighting and dismantling empires, naturally leads to the conclusion that Vox is the one who will eventually need to change his mind.
Happily ever after, never ends.
Trust us. Trust us. Trust us.
Now that's good television.
Top of the hour, and we're reporting a sudden bowl-cut felon trying to go 0-3 against me. I mean, this guy is always debating for the villain. An alien invader, Jack Black from a terrible movie, and now someone who befriends galactic dictators? Is this someone you really trust to give you the best outcome? Time to show you who's really in charge of things now. I'm Larry Winwood, and you can trust me to show you why, if you're not fucking stupid, there's only really one choice for a victor today, and that's Vox Populi, the people's voice. First and foremost, Steven is going to have to replace Princess Charlie Morningstar in trying to prove that the Hazbin Hotel is capable of redeeming sinners. This may sound like an easy thing for Steven to do, given his track record, but you gotta realize what Steven is stuck in. Hell, a twisted realm of darkness and sin, a dark pit literally created by the evils of humanity itself. Some of the worst stains of humanity are forced to burn for their lives here. Cretins, deviants, losers, boozers, abusers, and so much more. I know people like to joke about how Steven is always thinking they can befriend anybody, but Steven clearly has standards. Even you state that Steven never fully forgave the Diamonds, even opting to try to shatter White Diamond's gem the second he got the chance to. Charlie is optimistic about redemption because she lived in hell her whole life, and is basically used to all the crap that happens down there. Steven is just getting thrusted into yet another cosmic war where both sides are just waiting for the other to pull the trigger. He's gonna have a hard time settling in when even in the hotel he'll be surrounded by booze, a whole lot of cussing, sexual innuendos, a cannibalistic overlord, and Nifty, who's like a more extreme version of Onion, who Steven already has a pretty shaky relationship with. Even with lower stakes losers, Steven freaking despises Kevin for being such a creeper on Stevani, which is obviously fair, but there are far more terrible people. I mean, Vox is literally rubbing shoulders with Valentino, whose acts and abuse on Angel Dust is inexcusable. And Vox clearly doesn't care and even admits to finding it funny at one point. The amount of lives ruined by the V's in exchange for fame is innumerable. Steven would never want to imagine pacifying, let alone redeeming someone as terrible as Vox. Sure, there are parallels between Vox's obsession with Alistair and Spinell's backstory with Pink. The main issue is, though, that Spinell was at least an innocent person before losing Pink. Don't let a stupid TV box head and sweater vest fool you in that scene. Vox was still an overlord, someone with an innumerable amount of human souls under his command. And even before death, he was a deranged cult leader who killed a bunch of people in order to make it to the top. Al said it best himself, he's a broken man who's never satisfied, no matter how high up the food chain he is. Meanwhile, I believe Vox will have a much easier time trying to break Steven. It's easy to clown on Vox whenever he's around Alistair, but he's shown time and time again to be an expert at playing into the crowd and manipulating people, like getting Carmilla on his side by exploiting her care for her daughters, or antagonizing Lucifer by calling him weak. Sound familiar?
You won't do it. You're weak. I'm not!
You say Vox failed to break Charlie, but he got pretty damn close. Charlie was in complete shambles with her losing contact with a lot of her crew, as well as the stress of Vox's constant jabs at the hotel, as well as the looming threat of Holy War breaking out. He even managed to bring her down to tears after calling her a pale imitation of her mother. This is honestly pretty close with how things went in future, with the stress of trying to fix everything constantly weighing on him. And it's not like he ever got a good grasp of controlling his pink outburst. If he was stressed out trying to fix one war, he's gonna be sent back into a downward spiral trying to stop another one. Only he has no group hug to save him this time. Sure, Steven could go the straightforward approach and just try to fight him directly, but I don't think it will be as easy as a winner you think it is. Not only is he clearly no pushover in a fight, but Vox also has Val and Velvet who are both willing to jump in if needed, as well as a giant mechanized shark on speed dial, which even had Alistair constantly on the back foot. Plus, if Steven tried to beat up Vox, there's nothing stopping Vox from just simply twisting the story in his favor, and using this as a means of villainizing Steven to the citizens of Hell, like how he did when Lucifer and the angels tried to threaten him. Vox is already used to using his influence to try and treat the hotel as some merciless place that forces sinners to correct themselves. This would only be more fuel to the flame. This is the same guy who somehow managed to turn Charlie going in for a handshake into an assault charge. And trust me, Vox will know if Steven has any affiliation with the hotel, considering his secret spy he has brainwashed in the hotel with angel dust. And whose side do you think Hell is gonna take? This random kid that popped out of nowhere, started glowing pink and trying to attack people? Or one of the most powerful and prominent leaders in the pentagram? In the end, Steven is just way too far out of his depth. He's going to be fighting an uphill battle trying to prove to anyone, especially himself, that anyone in Hell, let alone Vox, are capable of redemption. Vox has far too much control across the board, he's going to have far easier time wowing people to his side, has eyes everywhere, and has way too much influence for Steven to be capable of handling without losing his cool. Vox has all the cards in his deck, and while Steven will be sent spiraling downwards, Vox will only be busy climbing up higher the stairway of the heavens, and once he gets up there, Steven will wish that he had just stayed gone.
You can make it better. We don't have to fight.
Yeah, right, bitch! Trust me! Just me! Trust us! No, I meant to say us.
Yeah, okay.
Looks like evil's on the rise again, but I can count on Steven taking you down. My resolve is stronger than yours, so I'll keep arguing until I can change your mind. I didn't really dive into Steven proving the hotel works, but it's really not that hard as long as you aren't playing into Vox's games. We have Serpentius in heaven, and Baxter has the means to hotwire Vox Tech and broadcast him. As long as Steven can convince Sarah that this is the best way to avoid a war, which, considering Steven's people skills, I believe will be an easy task, they'll be able to prove for a fact that redemption is possible. Actually running the hotel and maintaining its reputation won't be too hard either. We saw in future how well Steven was at scheduling and planning for Little Homeworld, and he can most likely keep the hotel staff united. He's not gonna rush Angel into redemption, he won't drive Huskin to quitting, and I believe he can actually quell Alistair's rage for the time being. He's mostly pissed about his staff being broken, but Steven's saliva can repair broken objects. He can kiss the staff and fix it that way. Strange? Perhaps? Effective? Most definitely. With Alistair on his good graces, I think he'd be willing to return the favor by letting Steven know the secret of Vox's vulnerable side. And of course, an Alistair restored of his power is going to be invaluable when it's time to bring Vox's empire down. And not to mention, very fun for him. We already saw in the show that a Husk and a Cherry can defeat a Valentino, and a Nifty and a Baxter can defeat a Velvet. Just leave them to play out that battle and they'll win. If we want even greater numbers, just hand me a watermelon! Steven can amass an army of watermelon Stevens, and those little warriors were able to take on Malachite by working together. I could see those determined little fellas being invaluable to the team. And as I said, Steven's training means a one-on-one against Vox is going to end in Steven's favor. We also still have Vaggie around, and since Vox would never be able to create the Might of Lilith in this timeline, she won't be too busy to help Steven beat Vox's ass. Also, Alistair wouldn't have made his gambit without Charlie, so he's here to help too. It's safe to say that my crew are going to win the fight, and perhaps go out for pizzas afterwards. Vox could try to spin this story into one where he's the victim, but it really won't be too hard to discredit Vox's words. Steven really could just take a nap and possess him. From there, he can be a spy, collecting damning evidence from within V Tower and sending it Steven's way. All of Vox's plans expose that he explicitly wants to rule all of creation himself. He is not doing this for Hell's sake. It's going to tank Vox's reputation, considering how he's making such a big deal of being the hero who wants to serve hell. More than that, Steven as Vox could pretty much make a fool of himself and convince the other overlords that he is not worth endorsing. And if Vox tries to clear everything up and say this was Steven's fault somehow, his cameras are just going to show a sleeping gem who couldn't possibly be doing anything. A dirty tactic to be sure, but win in hell. Look, I can't act like Steven won't be under a lot of stress trying to end another war. But he has routinely picked himself back up in these events, thanks in part to the connections he was able to make. He may be far from his friends now, but he can make honest friends at the hotel. Despite their rough edges, Angel, Husk, Vaggie, and even Nifty are supportive people. You compare Nifty to Onion, but I would compare her more to Peridot with that gremlin energy of hers. I can see Steven earning their trust. His very nature will remind them of Charlie, and it'll become clear that he wants to help. Steven will see the good in these sinners pretty quickly, and have new friends that he can rely on to support him and pick him up when he's down. So I really don't see Steven losing himself in all of this. And yes, Vox and his little posse are not redeemable. Steven isn't gonna kid himself about that. But his choice to pacify them is for the betterment of society. We don't want them to try taking over heaven again. Even if Steven hates them, there's still a precedent for him trying to know these people better and learn how to get them to stop hurting people. Again, the diamonds. Vox is a broken man, unsatisfied with whatever power he has in search of even greater power. But once he sees how that mindset betrays him, I think we'll see him move into a genuinely brighter future. Brighter than the stars in the sky.
But how about one last question for the road, Princess? Do you think I could be redeemed?
Wow, watermelons, super scary. I see why they give you such a big star. Quick thing though, while all these very elaborate plans like just trying to possess Vox in his sleep may sound like game changers, not only are these now really go-to tactics for Steven to do, and ones that I doubt could even work on an overlord like Vox, but you're also ignoring the angel dust-shaped elephant in the room. Vox has a very reliable pair of eyes in the hotel at all times, since even the entire cast of the hotel had absolutely no idea about him being a spy in the show itself. I doubt someone who just popped in like Steven and is just getting to know all these guys would either. So this will only give Vox valuable intel and the time to think of workarounds. Plus, if we're going down that route, Vox could also just brainwash Steven and turn him into yet another puppet in dismantling the hotel. Speaking of the hotel, I still don't see Steven being able to really convince anyone to stay. The fewer people staying and supporting the Hazbin Hotel, the more people supporting Vox's takeover of heaven. Especially since people are only going to be showing up because they want to kill angels. The last time Steven had to deal with people wanting to use their quote-unquote free will to destroy and fight, it didn't go so well. When he and Lapis had to stop the other Lazulis from terraforming, Lapis had to beat them into shape in order to get them to stop. And when facing Jasper, it took literally killing her to get her to respect him. None of Steven's happy songs and dances are gonna work here. Even Charlie admits that never works. You can't just make everything better by singing some stupid song. And again, Steven was already stressing out trying to run Little Homeworld with help. He's gonna stress out again trying to run an entire hotel full of sinners with only Vaggie really helping. And that's assuming she's not also stressing out that her girlfriend has gone missing. On the topic of the hotel staff, I sincerely doubt Alistair and Steven would get along at all. Alistair didn't even tell anyone in the actual show itself that he was suffering from an angelic injury, or that he needed help fixing his staff. Even if Steven could fix it, Al would never tell this random kid that popped in that he got his ass kicked and ran away when Charlie needed him most. He's far too prideful for that. And I don't think Alistair would really find Steven as entertaining as Charlie. Again, while both are optimistic, Charlie's belief in redemption of others is far stronger and more unbreakable than Steven's. At least she admits that she believes that someone as terrible as Vox or Alistair deserve the chance to change. I don't think Steven will. Add that with him being creeped out by nifty shenanigans, being unable to properly give the time needed to help Angel without actively shooting himself in the foot and helping Vox, and just being incapable of properly fitting in with this much cruder world, I have a hard time believing that he can form as good as because of a connection with anyone in the hotel. Meanwhile, Vox will already have the majority of the citizens of Hell eating out of the palm of his hands, especially after he gains access to the Lilith super weapon. You say that he wouldn't be able to capture Lucifer in this theoretical timeline, but if anything, it should be a lot easier. With Charlie missing and his ability to mimic voices, I'm sure Lou would jump at the opportunity to try and see if his daughter is safe. Considering I still believe that he will be capable of exploiting Camilla's love for her daughters and the thought of holy war just like in the show, I think he'll still gain access to the super weapon. And while he may not have Alistair stuck under his thumb, what better way to gain the respect of the other overlords by literally capturing the motherfucking king of hell and blowing a hole in heaven itself? What overlord wouldn't want to support that? Add this with Vox having the hotel's main guest under his command and him potentially even just being able to use the princess's voice against them, and Vox would have such an easy time gaining full support of hell. We saw that it only took one statement from Charlie that Vox was the strongest to fully gain the pentagram's numbers on his side. He could just fake it now that Charlie's gone. Steven's only hope would be to somehow prove that redemption is possible with Sir Pentious, but that will require the full cooperation from the Angels, which took a long time to get, time which they no longer have with how fast Vox will be getting support over his conquest against heaven. Sarah was always skeptical of whether or not they could truly be capable of having peace with hell, and only went along with it because of Charlie herself going up to heaven and stating her case. With her gone, she may not be as willing of going down there to try and patch things up. Steven may also have a hard time properly trusting heaven either, considering the many exterminations done by their hands, especially with dangerous people like Lute on their side. Steven is gonna have a hard time being fully on board with cooperating with heaven, in a similar manner to how he hasn't come around to the diamonds after all their cosmic destruction. Don't you see, Max? Hell doesn't need some diamond trying to force the pentagram to play nice. They need someone who shines brighter. Without the princess there to halt any progress, Vox is gonna have the easiest time gathering resources, gaining the numbers, gaining the thunder, and bringing on the support of Hell's finest to his side. Steven, as resourceful as he is completely out of his league here, and lacks the time to properly fight back against Hell's uprising. They're fucked!
It's so much fun to be bad with us. So bad with us. Cha-cha-cha. Stop it.
It's heartbreaking to see Stephen and the Stevens break up like this, Larry, but I'll get you back on the Crystal Gem side. Leave your comments below to show which side you're supporting.
Sorry Max, Multiverses is dead. Time to hop on the next bandwagon. That's just show business, baby. Anyways, if y'all want to be bad with us, come join our Discord server. And also be sure to join our Patreon to see episodes early. Trust us with your entertainment.